Great. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Kurt, and this is the Kurt Locker. Today, I am honored to have Brian Fleck from Wait It Out. Brian, welcome to the show. How are we doing this evening?
Good. Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking to you for a while.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking too, because specifically what we're talking about here is we're going to talk about what it takes to make a cast iron plate. Like what we're talking about here for a US made cast iron plate. So rolling straight into it, like what caused, obviously Wait It Out, from what I've gathered at least, was kind of founded because there was a demand signal for plates, quality plates, and you were doing steel plates, I think is what we're calling them
Yeah,
on the
solid
site.
steel.
And the steel plates were really accurate on weight, but they were also really expensive. So were there signals or feedback that said like, hey, it's time to jump to cast iron? What actually caused you to start doing that?
I think definitely in regards to the market, solid steel is a very expensive product. And at the time that I was trying to come out with cast iron, solid steel was great for certain demographics, but it's not going to hit the I guess the demographics that in a whole of everybody who's used to cast iron plates. The solid steel was great for like people who wanted calibration, the thinness to it, I guess the sexiness to it, I should say, if that makes sense for the word.
They do look
But I
cool.
knew they were still cool, but they definitely had a lot of evolutionized since we started. With cast iron, I knew obviously eventually if I wanted to get more in this business and go farther, I don't tell steel is not going to be sustainable. So cast iron was my next option, of course. I didn't realize we can make it the same way, which was a kind of a cool attribute. I thought it was the physics are going to be where you have to make thicker plates just to get cast iron, but that's how we started. I just knew there's a demand long term.
Yeah, for sure. Seems like a cool transition. It seems like it easily stitches into kind of the portfolio that Wait It Out was already doing. And also, I was really surprised as well to see just how thin they could be. I think from probably 20, I'm just going to pull dates out of my rear here, but from 2018 to present, the deep dish, and by present I mean like 18 to 24, the deep dish was kind of king. Rogue came out. And I really think a lot of it's like the elephant bar deadlift at the Rogue, at the Arnold, and they had those super deep thick plates, and people saw them, and it was really reminiscent of old thick plates, like all the vintage stuff that's there. But to see Wait It Out come out with the thin plates, and then to really see them popularized, has been kind of an interesting switch, because you guys also have a bumper plate too. So you guys are kind of covering down on the bases there, but sticking with that thinner size. So how does that, is it essentially a sustainability piece for you, or how does the cast iron plates really play into like your intent as a business owner?
Yeah, so obviously the thin was great for solid steel, and I wanted to keep that philosophy going with the company because I think that's a huge market in regards and huge need for customers in home gym, garage gym, commercial gym. It doesn't matter where you're at. Space is a premium, and nobody was really doing thin plates or marketing it that way. To say there are some people that regional made some solid steel plates. Obviously, Micrograins made solid steel 10s, 5s, 2.5s, which are awesome. But the marketability was, I think, the space saving wasn't shown and understood by the regular consumers. So I wanted to continue the space saving philosophy, the thinness, and obviously getting more on the bar is great, but who's really going to get 2,000 pounds on a bar that we could possibly put on there? It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So marketing strategies change as we move on, of course. At first, it's just helping people out, making sure the market, but then people wanted it. So I was like, well, let's keep it going. So the cast iron is the next plausible thing. And we were able to get them thin. And then we did the 45s for a long time, of course. We didn't have the capital to do the other tooling. So the 2.5s, 5s, 10s, 25s, not 35s, but 45s were good because the tooling's expensive. I mean, to be honest, $15,000 per plate to make the mold. And not everybody just has, all $60,000 laying around. They're like, oh yeah, let's start this. And then hopefully
That
the
is
market.
yeah, that's something crazy to think about too, is so we're kind of joking for a couple seconds before we hit record here, but I did get a comment on a post I did today with the Wait It Out 25 cast iron that I have. and somebody stated that they had no intentions of getting any weighted out plates because there were no threads. So outside of like the $15,000 price tag, what's been your experience with 35s? Keeping in mind that I am an avid anti 35 pound plate guy. I have an entire article on my blog where I talk about it. But from your
Yeah.
experience, why no 35s?
I think it's a business decision too. Not only just like it doesn't make sense to do a 35 because you got 25 and 10. And I can understand if you're using thicker plates. I think that's a huge advantage to have, instead of doing a 225 and 10 that takes up more space, have a 35 that's going to take up the same amount of space as two plates, or less space, I should say. But when our plates are so thin that it doesn't hurt any of your space saving, it doesn't hurt any of your barbell to put just a 25 and a 10 on there. So that's not only because I never used this, but also the other aspect is a business, strictly inventory control, who's going to buy it. If you're making 35-pound plates and nobody's buying them and you continue to stock them and never sell them, then it's a bad business decision because you're sitting on the shelf for months and months and months. And that's what happened when we did first start making 35s because it just was part of the whole data. Everything's there, so let's put it all there. We can do it easily. So yeah, we sat there. Let's just say we made 35s, just for instance. They'd sit there for 3-4 months. People would buy them, don't get me wrong, but a very small population would buy them. So you kind of look at that. Why are we holding on to 35s when nobody's buying them? If somebody asked me, hey, can you make 35s? I can custom make them. That's for sure. I can custom make 37.5-pound plates out of solid steel if we want to, but I'm not going to stop. That's just doesn't make sense financially and business wise.
Well, I love it because I'm still firmly in the anti 35 camp, and I will say I do have a couple of concessions. Most of it is to the vintage weights people if you're trying to complete a set. My second one is if you compete in some sort of sport where a 35-pound plate is part of a calibrated set. But we're not talking about that. So speaking of all these different types of lifters out there, you have your power lifters, home gym owners, strongmen. Where do you see weighted out really kind of growing? Where do you see it really becoming something that's going to be popular and take off?
Yeah, that's a good question because that's something I've been thinking about for a long time. And also the market tells you what to do, right? In regards, I think it's great for home gym users, but they're fun. I love them. I think it's great, but it's not always sustainable for a business. So we have to branch out to other avenues as well. If I could just be in strongman at home gym, that's how a business ran, that'd be awesome, right? But unfortunately, sustainability and continuing the business, I have to branch out to other markets. So I have been thinking about this a lot. It's a good question. It's on my mind. And the bodybuilding world's huge, of course. We haven't really marketed to them because they have pretty big affiliations with a lot of different other weight plate brands, but they don't have space saving plates for isolated machines like plate loaded machines. And that's a huge market, a plate loaded machine being so thin. They're strong still. It doesn't matter if they're strongmen, bodybuilders, powerlifters, they're strong. So got to get more on the bar, not just the barbell, but the sleeve, I should say, on the plate loaded machines. If we stick with the solid steel model too, those are very premium, of course, calibrated. They look good. They're silver and gold. It's going to be a higher market. It's sometimes hard for everyday people to buy a $320 pair of 45 plates. I get it. Right? But there is a consumer out there. There are gyms that want that kind of premium product. So we're just trying to figure out like where do I fit in these markets? Do my cast iron plates fit in with the mid tier to premium tier plates? Obviously they're not the low tier plates. We know this because they're not cheap. They're not inexpensive, I should say. But do the solid steel? Does solid steel stay around forever? I don't know. Is maybe that's why people didn't do solid steel before because nobody was buying them, or they weren't marketing them. The market's changed a lot though since the last 5 years, as you know. So the pricing has been a little bit, I think, being a higher price product, and a lot of other companies are higher price products too because they have no choice with the current situation that the last 5 years has brought us. It's been easier to sell those solid steel plates because an extra 20%, you're like, it's not bad. 20% is okay. And I get calibrated plate. Maybe I'll have just an extra set just to have that's cool. So I guess to get to that question in a big turnaround way is we're trying to get in all markets, right? And I think with the bumper plates, we would like to get into some of the CrossFit aspect things because they're not the same bumper plates as they're used to, but the same time, with innovation comes education, and it's going to take some time to get that out there and see why these will work better than your old big bumper plates. Doesn't mean that they don't have their uses too, the big bumper plates, but how can we complement? If you're a CrossFitter, you're lifting 300 pounds, deadlifting, whatever you're doing, picking up, throwing it down, maybe just put one pair of weighted outs in the end to help you out to get to the next level. We don't need to be everybody's plate. We just we want to be in your gym. That's it. We don't need to be your only plate you ever use. So I think it's a very complimentary.
Funny. I actually had a conversation earlier today. You circling back to your bodybuilding target. There's a leg press machine in a gym that I was in today, and it has like 8 to 10 inch maybe weight horns on it. And I actually talked about weighted out because one of the issues that came up was that you can only load it up with maybe 800 pounds. And with the design of the leg press, 800 pounds isn't really all that much. Leg presses are notorious for being super heavy loaded. Weighted out plates, though, would offer a significant advantage. I didn't actually break out a tape measure and do the math or anything, but just looking at the plates that they had, because they had those big old iron grip 100-pound plates, and that's what they were loading. But those things are so thick, definitely thicker than 4 weighted out plates. So you're talking almost double just by going with those. Speaking of those, go ahead.
I was saying that also leads into the, more of the market that we're trying to get into too, the commercial gyms, colleges, professional sports teams, because there's a lot of, we are the only product with this type, or we're the only type of company with this product. There's a lot of opportunities to be in these, I guess, gyms that are out there. And what I've noticed about some of these gyms, nothing bad. I love the gyms. They're great. And I understand why it happens. People invest a lot of money in their gym, their commercial gym, if they have a private little barbell club, whatever the case may be, but they forget about the plates. They got tons of money in these machines, but then the plates are there, and then it's like these old standard plates. It doesn't mean every gym's like that. I'm just saying from my experiences, what I'm seeing, like
there's a fair bit,
almost like an afterthought.
Yeah, there's a fair bit, or they'll be filled with because a lot of times these bigger gyms too are hiring a company to actually outfit their facility. And because that company maybe doesn't sell a plate, they try to charge them as, I'm not trying to say that they're price gouging them, but they're charging them for great equipment. And really they're almost like making up for the more expensive equipment by going cheap where they can, which it's difficult to the uneducated consumer to make a case against nice plates, because consumers think plates must be plates, like a 45 must weigh 45. Now, people that listen to this are definitely not that audience. We're not those people, but it is interesting just how much of a quality jump that there is, which actually leads like straight into like the design of the weighted out plates themselves. So like what design elements mattered most to you? So like talking shape, grip, thickness, finish. And I know that there are multiple finish options too, but yeah, like how did you decide on the final specifications when it came to the new cast iron series?
Yeah. So we'll stick with just the cast iron because there's some other things with solid steel and stuff, but the cast iron, basically, I wanted to start with a powder coat. I like the clear version because I liked how they kept the raw coating on there. So we'll start with the coating. The handles came in play just because it was part of the design. It was kind of cool because we wanted to keep it looking just like the solid steel, which worked out. So that answers the handles question. Obviously, the handles are people love the handles because you can move around and you can do different exercises that are just easy to transport across the gym. But with that, you're worried about the coating because you're always touching the handle, which is always in the whatever oils you have in your hands and everything. It can eventually wear down. And we started with clear powder coat. And it's nice looking, it's great, but the powder coat, it's a very expensive process for cast iron. And not many people probably know there's lots of different options to coat your plates with. I mean, you can do painting, you can do spray painting, you can do powder coat, you can do e-coat. Solid steel, we do electroplating and anodizing, but I don't know, the powder coat just didn't feel like it was going to do well. The e-coat didn't feel like it was going to do well. And I've got a manufacturing background, so I got a lot of connections to find out the best paints. So honestly, we did powder coat the black plates for a while, and it just seemed like they weren't as durable as the other paint we're using for the colors. So the colors were a separate paint. It was just easy. We can do minimum order. They're actually hand spray painted. So I said, why are we not doing everything in these hand painted plates? It's better for the customer. It's better for the obviously the plates and quality. So we decided to switch everything to that hand painted process versus powder coating. And it's actually a more inexpensive process per se, higher quality though. The paint's not cheap by any means, but you don't have to heat up the plate to 385 degrees and then wait for it to cool down after it's done so it cures, because these plates can take like 2 hours, 3 hours to paint on a powder coat process. So they're not cheap to do. So the other paint, you got a 2-coat process, so it can still take some time, but the advantage is we can do no minimum orders on custom colors, which are, I mean, I think that's a huge value in my opinion. I mean, if you have a theme gym at your house, if you like red or green or blue, you buy a pair of green. It fits your theme. Paint's just, I don't know. I can't say much more about it. It's just very durable. I'm very surprised every time I do it because I'm like, you just spray painted that on? Yeah, but the paint's, it's made for pretty much rust preventative. So I don't know if you saw Kaizen Jim that we did the video with his old rusty plates last year, right? Or a little bit before last year's home gym con. And the same paint as goes on here, but you don't have to clean your plates up. You have to do nothing. You just spray over it and it's like brand new. It's
Wow.
industrial paint, of course, but I guess that answers the coding question. Just, I know it's late. I'm going all around the place.
No,
like I
you're
said, I got
good.
back from the Feed My Starving
I
Children.
actually had a quick follow up on the paint, if you don't mind. So I had placed an order for, I believe it was the NAS Nationals, North American Strongman Nationals plates. Was that, or were they the USS Nationals plates that you had for sale? Whichever ones those were those the black powder coat? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, those are actually powder coat ones. Yeah, that was before we changed to the other paint.
So it's funny. This morning I was lifting. I recorded a reel this morning and posted it where I slipped on the new 25 onto the old 45, and I have a pair of a higher quality gray that I got after Home Gym Con, and then I've got the black pair that I purchased that were from USS Nationals, and I was admiring the new 25, 10, 5, and 2.5 pound plate paint finish, especially compared to the original black. And it's interesting because when you said that you can get them powder coated or you can get them painted, that's where my mind immediately went. As I was like, oh, that must have been the powder coat. And to what you said, I mean, it's definitely not like terrible, but it's showing some signs of wear. I mean, for sure. In those other ones, I have not been gentle to them since they came in, the 25s, 10.5s, and 2.5s for the new line, and they've been holding up a lot better. Plus, those old gray ones are holding up really well too. That have like
The gray
the
ones.
better paint.
Gray ones that you
I
have
was gonna say,
I'm trying to remember which one that is. Is that
I can't remember if they're the gunmetal. I think it's just custom clear, maybe.
oh, they're
Maybe it
clear
is
ones?
custom
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah. So those are clear. They just show what the cast iron looks like behind the paint, basically.
They're
And
they're
those
real
are
nice.
the same paint that you have on the new 25s and 10s and stuff. Just a
That
different
explains
obviously
it.
color.
They have
Yeah,
that
yeah,
higher gloss finish to it too.
correct. Plus, all you got to remember also, USS Nationals was throwing those things around a lot too in the powder coating.
That
So
is true.
I don't know if
Strongmen
you
are not
got.
kind of plates.
Yeah, no, I was asking, I don't know if you got a pair in the warm up area or you got a pair in the actual comp floor, because on the comp floor they were fine because they had mats, but everybody in the back threw them around on the concrete and everything, so it messed up the paint a little bit more. But that's what they're there for, so I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But
Hey, paint's one of them. I still like them. They still weigh 45 pounds, and I still enjoy using them. So no complaints from me. Plus, they came in just in time for me to be training for America's Strongest Veteran, and I needed to be able to load a loading pin super heavy, which I couldn't do with my deep dish or my bumpers. So those came in clutch for that. But yeah, moving on from paint design considerations, what other design considerations did we go with for the cast iron series?
yeah, so I mean the 45s, you can best we can understand they wanted to fit that same model as a solid steel. Then we were able to just reduce the handle size a little bit to fit that model of 3/4 inch thick, with maintaining an Olympic diameter. Now with I thought about the 25s, 10s, 5s, 2.5s for a while on how we're going to do this, because obviously once you buy the tooling, that's what your tooling is. you can't really change it up too much. So obviously want to stay in the thin profile, just like everything else. I want to be as close as we were on our solid steel thinness, but I realized with the cast iron, like 10s, 5s, 2.5s, I've got to make them a little bit thicker. Not by much. I think it was like 0.65, if I remember right, inches on the 10-pound plates. Same as the 25s, 0.65. Our solid steel are half inch each versus 0.65. But you do get a little smaller diameter on the 25s, 10s, 5s, 2.5s for the range of motion. You still can't use the dumbbells for 25s, of course. We don't make them that small. But on the 10s, I wanted to have a little thinner, a little smaller diameter for the range of motion when people put on their little dumbbells. Because I think that's what, even when I play with they're like 9.85 inches on the solid steel the 10-pound plates. I could tell it's great. It's great to load up more, but you're losing with that thinness, you might lose some of that range of motion in some exercises. So I wanted to avoid that. And I took off almost an inch, 0.85 inches on the 10-pound plates of cast iron. So that will help there. But the biggest thing that we get questions about more than 35s is, are you going to make standard plates, 1-inch plates? I was like, why? No, I mean, it's kind of gone away. Now I do get some demand for it. We do custom make some solid steel standard plates, but it's just, I can't buy tooling for another $15,000 times how many plates you need. It just doesn't make financial sense. Sitting at the brainstorming room, whatever you want to call it, talking with engineers, I was like, is there a way we could put a 1-inch plate with the 2-inch plates, just put an insert in there when we do the tooling and take it in and out? Now that I have more understanding of the foundries and the tooling process, they said, I think so. So after going back and forth, we designed it with an insert so we can just drop it in there. I mean, it's more than just drop it in there, just layman's terms. You put this little insert in there and the metal will bolt all see around there and you'll have a 1-inch plate without having new tooling, which is the beauty thing. You got a multifunctional piece of tooling, which, as I started thinking about more and more, there's other inserts I could put in there that aren't just a 1-inch hole. I mean, you could put a threaded insert in there. If I have a threaded loadable dumbbell, let's say, I could put a threaded insert in there. You could thread your plates on there without really much of a collar per se. There's sky's the limit, right? Depending on whatever you can do with a plate. If you want a 1/4-inch hole for some odd reason, you want a threaded hole with a 1/2-inch 13 or your own proprietary threading, you can do that. I want people to come with me ideas, right? Let's see what we could, it sounds weird. Let's see what we put in the hole.
Yeah, okay. That's, I think that the threaded thing inspires me for a little bit of like the pro style dumbbell for the plate that's on the very outside. That would maybe lock it all together, do a threaded center hole, do a threaded, 1-inch hole there. Perhaps that would be a good way to have a nice, clean pro style series of dumbbells.
Yeah, because then you just put a nut in the end of it, basically, and lock it in. And then you can easily take it on and off when you want, if you wanted to change your pro style dumbbells.
Yeah, if you wanted to buy like 4. I mean, I feel like most people probably have 4 to 5 different dumbbell weights that they go to on a pretty regular basis. So maybe that, I don't know. But I know that when I hear 1-inch plates, my mind automatically goes to kind of lower end pig iron style pieces of equipment, or it goes to pro style dumbbells. Yeah. And those are like my 2 avenues. And I love the look of pro styles. I like how the weight stacks look. That seems like a really cool application. And also really cool that you're able to reuse these $15,000 dies, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't quite understand, that manufacturing side of the coin. You can't just make this up. Like, this has to be very intentional, because you're spending $15,000 on something that you need to be as perfect or as to your specifications as you can get. How long did it take, just out of curiosity? Like, so you have like the final design is there. I noticed the pre-order's up, so my assumption is yes. But like, how long did it take from prototyping and kind of CADing and braining this together to saying that's my $15,000 mold?
Well, I was obviously wanted to do it ever since I got the 5s, which was, 2.5 years or 3 years ago. I think it may have been. It seems like yesterday. I've been waiting. Oh man, I was so excited to get those 45s when I first touched it. I was like, oh, that's nice. It's one of those feelings you get where you're like, I did something good. But
yeah, it took me like, hey, Mom.
Yeah, it took me 3 years to get it. I always wanted to do it, but the capital wasn't there. But in the process of waiting those 3 years, thinking about different designs to what I want to do with it, what physics allows the cast iron to do, what the foundry can do. So I've obviously talked a lot with back and forth with foundry engineers to find out what are your capabilities, because I got to work around that. I don't just go in there and say, can I get a half-inch, 10-pound plate at 8 inches or 9 inches? Because they're like, no, it's physically impossible to do. Based on physics, maybe, but also within the tooling, within everything else in the foundry, with their whole setup, could be like, you can't do it. There's manufacturing limits that you have to work around too. You can't avoid it right now. And even with technology that will advance, it's still going to be hard to do because there's physics will not change. So yeah, it took me 3 years, and I finally actually got a college, which I'll lead back into another why I designed a certain weight plate the way I did, and why we have some inserts in there, not just there, but for where our name's at. But they wanted to have all the different sizes. So I want to say, we'll find out who they are later in the year, but right now we're going to say thank you to them, because they allowed us to do what we're doing now. Without them, it'd be really hard, and I'd have to wait, no pun intended, wait it out until we get some capital more and more. But they really love the plates, and they said, this is what we want, so we're going to get it. We're going to make it work for you. And they kind of pushed the envelope to get this new sizes going.
That's awesome.
It is. And I mean, luckily, I've been thinking about it for a long time, so I already knew it in my mind. This is what we're going to have when we get to this point. But once we got this stuff, I think we started the process in October or late September. We started the tool making process. Now, the tooling took about a month to make, which is really fast for tooling. Just, I don't know why it was so fast, but the tooling company was able to make it, because you're making it out of stainless steel, and you're taking a big CNC machine, and you're all these different parts, and it's got to put all this molten lava, that's how many degrees that gets up to, and to withstand that for 100,000 uses. And that usually takes a lot more time than a month, but they were fast. So that was awesome. So that was fast. Got the prototypes, which you got the prototypes, as you see. Now, the prototypes, we had some more work to do on them. So we had to take the tooling back to the tooling company. And all of a sudden, it just took forever to get the tooling. Like, they had to adjust some things in there. Now, the new year came along, and there was other projects they got there, which is not a big deal. I mean, these things don't happen overnight. It takes a long time. But we finally got a snowstorm coming in tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, and it's going to affect where we're manufacturing at. Supposed to be manufacturing the whole production run today and tomorrow. So I don't know what's going to delay it a little bit. So sorry, guys, if you're listening, it might be delayed a little longer than we anticipate. We're still hoping for by the end of February, but we can't control elements, and we want to make sure they're good. So I don't want to push anything, but let's put it this way. It's taken about 5 months to get to this point, after all said and done, to make sure it's perfected. Yeah, it's been an ordeal, because now you put all this money up front for these plates, and now people want them. You know, some people buy pre-orders, some people wait for it to come out, which is great. Either way, it's good. But now you've got all this money invested, and you've got no product to sell for 5-6 months after all said and done. And again, I'm not like a rogue or rep of the world that has deep pockets. I've got to plan accordingly to make sure the small business continues to succeed while things are in production, but putting up a lot of money up front before that happens. So it's a weird spot to be. And then the bumper plates, the same thing. We got other plates coming out for the bumpers, the other sizes, but it's been taking forever too. Get back to the design. Sorry, cast iron is what we're focusing on. Where my name is at for Wait It Out, we put an insert in there as well, so you can take that off. My goal, and you may be the first one to hear it, because I'm getting closer to this opportunity, yes, is work with other companies that want to work with our design for private labeling. So if, just to name names, if Fringe Sport wanted to have their own cast iron plate, but they don't want to buy the tooling, they don't want to do all that stuff, cool. Put your name on it. Let's go, put it out there. Because I think our design is awesome. I think it goes with a lot of other designs. Of course, I'm biased, but I think that we've got the patent on it, so nobody else can have it or make it, but we can, so we can offer it to everybody else too. They have different marketing than we do. They have different audiences, different demographics. So why it'd be stupid for me not to do that and allow this design to flourish and get more hands. But at first, I wanted to selfishly business thought process. I want to make sure I had my name on nobody else for a while, because people need to know what Weighted Out is, and that's the brand. But ultimately, I want it to be everywhere and help other companies out too. So
Yeah.
that insert's
I see that
designed to
being a big thing for teams too, right?
teams, colleges.
Teams too,
That's
probably. Yeah, they're going to want Falcons or Vikings or whatever their thing is, and that's a really cool thing. I like the idea of the inserts, and with tooling, I wasn't aware with forges that they could do that, like to just do like an insert. It seems so counterintuitive to the little bit that I do know about that process, because like you kind of described, it's a relatively violent process that occurs
yeah.
when you
I
really
don't.
kind of think about it.
They do, but I mean, how they design them, I think there's a lot of high end stuff inside that tooling that they're designed correctly to withstand that. Now, again, they're not going to last forever. They think that most tooling life has around 100,000 pieces on it that you can get out of one piece of tooling. Again, it's variable, some are less, some are more, depending on how it goes. But they've been doing it for a long time. Private labeling, I mean, a lot of these plates are private labeled that you see in other companies, because they're not going to buy the tooling, but they're just going to put their name on there and brand it, and then sell it as their own house brand. I mean, manufacturing does it all the time. Everywhere you go, everything's house branded, manufactured. Same company makes, I'm not going to say anything, but same company makes products that you think it's theirs, right? And it's not. It's the same place it's contract manufacturer. So, but if you want to know the manufacturing process too, we split the cast iron. I don't know if you've heard of Scotty K Fitness. We came out and did some industrial painting for him on his plates. He's big influencer. He's more in I don't know what world he's in. He's in all these different worlds. Let's put it that way. He's not like a strongman world. He's in like entertainment world for his audience. And he went over with a YouTube video for, I think it was like 35, 40-minute video. We went through the manufacturing facility, not the foundry, because that's really hard to get into, but with the manufacturer, we machine them and paint them and everything. He kind of went over the details, like a how it's made episode.
Nice.
For
Hope you
which
had
then
the
you
cool
really
music.
understand. Yeah, then they had cool music with it. They did have cool music with it.
No, I mean like the how it's made, like that iconic when you wake up after you've had a little too many to drink and you hear the how it's made like theme song, like tonight on how it's made, school bus windshields. And you're like, what's happening?
I haven't watched it though. Then you get stuck into it though. And you're like, I need to know how
Yo,
these are
you
made.
do. I know. I love it. And they're all available on one of the streaming services we have. So when the family asks what I want to watch, I'm like, that. Let's go for
I
that.
want to know
That or
how
Dirty
it's made.
Jobs or something. So was there anything else? So like I think the center hole was one thing that we had talked about. Like the center hole wanted to be a specific tolerance when it came to putting on the barbell sleeve, because you don't want to have too much slop. What other kind of like iterations did we go through as far as handles, text maybe? Because I noticed that on the 25, the graphics are in between the handles, like kind of in line, versus the 45s, which they're not. They're actually located underneath.
That's true.
So what?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, what
good
made
tip.
those kind of decisions?
I think it's just a matter of how you hold those two plates. So if you're usually hold swabs like this, because they're lighter. If you're walking around with two of them, you're holding them in your hand like this, so it's always going to show weighted out, right side up. Or I guess it's upside down. It's going to show it the other way. It doesn't matter. But
It'll either say "Made in USA" or "Weighted Out."
that's right. Yeah. But if you're holding the 45s in there, you got to turn your head like this when people are walking to see what they are. It's a branding thing. I know not many people care about the branding thing or not, but when you start looking at these details and you start talking to experts in marketing and stuff, you're like, oh, that's a lot big. It's subliminal almost. Like I get it. Or it
Yeah,
was just a
I mean,
mistake and we'll that way.
if it's something like if you see it, now a marketing person will laugh at me for not knowing the numbers, but something like if you can make contact or have put something in front of somebody like 14 times or something along those lines, that's when it really becomes like an association that they can make. So no, I think it makes plenty of sense. Let's talk a little bit about the Foundry though, if you're good with it. I don't know how much of that is proprietary, high side, whatever you can talk about, but you chose a US based Foundry, which is great. Love that. Were there any particular certifications, experience, history? What brought you to that Foundry and what ultimately like made you pick that one?
Whoever answered the phone, who did it? No, I mean, it's hard to get a hold of people. It really is. It's hard to, even though you want to give them money, they're like, I don't want to talk to you. because they're busy, and that's the weirdest thing. You have to be like a salesperson to be a customer sometimes. But yeah, the first Foundry used, we don't use them anymore because they've kind of changed their strategies on how they wanted to go to market with some things. And they were a good Foundry, don't get me wrong, they're huge, but it was too pricey, unfortunately, for the market. But they made good product, and they all do. And then we got to another Foundry that made our 45s. To how we picked them, well, we worked with our machine company and our painting company, and they said, we know somebody here, and we can help you bring this down if you're looking for somebody else. So that's how I got the other Foundry. But last year around this time, that Foundry actually closed down unexpectedly without notice. So it's like, what do we do? How do we get this? I now have to literally wait another 3-4 months before we get the Foundry to another place. And it put me in obviously a bad spot. So it wasn't my choice of Foundry because that was just what they recommended. They did a good job, but they wouldn't give back the tooling either at first.
No.
And I was like, oh no, this is bad. So I actually had 2 pieces of tooling. And with the other Foundry, my first tooling, they made a new version. Okay, they made a new version at the new Foundry because it was easier. So I wanted a redundant tooling. So if something went wrong like that, I would have another Foundry to back up. Say, okay, you produce now, and we'll go back and forth as needed. But we were going to do that, and they shipped the tooling from the other Foundry down to us, and they lost half the tooling. Then we couldn't find it for 3 months, and we don't know where it went. Long story short, fighting with the trucking company, we got our insurance policy back. But now I have only one set of tooling. But we do have 2 Foundries now, but not for redundancy purposes. I'd like it to be that way. We will. That's at work. We already have that in plans. But there's one up in Michigan and there's one in Iowa. So they're kind of 2 separate ways. And our machine shop's like in the central Illinois area. So kind of eat halfway maybe. But the one in Michigan was a scramble because the other one shut down before. So we had to figure out where to go. And we contacted tons of Foundries. And the problem is with the Foundry process is not every Foundry has the same setup on tooling. You design the tooling based for that Foundry. So what happened is we had to they call it gating. You had to regate the Foundry for the tooling for their specific Foundry. That's like all the things you're like, hey, it's just a piece of steel. Can you just put in a mold cast and you could transfer it to any manufacturer? Well, no, it's a lot more than that. And then it costs money every time you do something.
Yeah, of course.
An interesting subject. So how I picked the Foundry was first one. I wanted a huge Foundry, and they finally got back to me. I was working on this for like a year and a half until we finally got somebody. It's just when you have a low volume at first, they don't want to work with you because they need a production schedule of at least 200 plates at a time. So if you're doing, hey, I want to do 50 this month. It's just impossible because they have all their raw materials are planned for certain production runs, and they're going to lose money if they do less than 200 per se. So yeah, it's interesting what I've learned and what the Foundries have done. And a lot of these Foundries do have proprietary things that I can't take videos of. And while I'm in there, they won't allow it. Because apparently the process of their tooling is a very proprietary concept. Now, the Foundry I'm at now, I don't have proprietary tooling per se. I can take pictures of it, do what I want. Plus it's also mine. So I think it's good to see that end of the thing. But yeah, Foundry was kind of picked for me because whoever answers the phone sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. And I do know that there's some industries where they're good. Like they don't need any new projects necessarily. So I guess I'm not too surprised. Then after the Foundry, it's got to go over to finishing and machining. So what's that process like, and how do we get to that? And like, how much time do we actually have? Like when we get a raw product from the Foundry and it arrives at machining, how much machining is occurring and to what part of the plate?
Yeah, so you technically have 2 options on how you want to machine those plates. The machine may not be the terminology for the one option because you can just grind the ends off. Like they come with the big casting, sharp edges, all the stuff around there, the excess molten material between it's like pushing a pancake down and things are going to squeeze out. But You can take a grinding wheel, you can go on a pedestal grinder and just grind out the ends, and you got a plate. And that was our very first style we did, was just grinding them down, taking the handles, grinding out the excess material, grinding the center hole. It's not accurate, it's not perfect, but it does the job. Now, the machining part is taken from the foundry. From that process, they do it. The foundry could take 4 to 6 weeks to get you in the schedule. And then when you get that, you ship it down to my machine shop that will take the excess material off with CNC machine that spins. It's got an insert on one side that it just grinds into the actual metal and then takes off the excess material, and it goes in the center hole, takes off that excess material. The handles we don't machine because it would be too hard. So it doesn't really matter because the handles just grind it out because it doesn't really affect anything. As long as there's no sharp edges or anything, we're good, you felt them, then you're okay. So then in the same shop that we machine them, we paint them. So we bring it to the painting process, which is now an individual painting them certain colors or black or whatever we choose, hand painting them, and then let that dry. It takes, it takes like 4 hours for a plate during high humidity times. If it was cold outside, which it has been, it takes probably double the time to cure because humidity allows this paint that we use to cure faster. So in the summer, it's great. We can pop them out real fast. In the winter, hard. So then we let them dry and we ship them out from the same location. So I don't know if I've answered that question correctly, but that's the process from the foundry to
there's no correct. I want to peek behind the curtain. No, you're definitely doing it. What I keep hearing, the common theme is, regardless of where you choose, what you chose to do U.S. production, there's going to be hurdles and there's going to be challenges. So I imagine that with all American source, I'm guessing American source steel, like I know they're making it here, but however the ore comes in is all American based. Like there's certain advantages to that, especially in certain times like now. But was there any other like supply chain issues, domestic or international, that specifically challenged this, like beyond just getting on the schedule?
I guess another reason why I got into cast iron, I've always wanted to, but the solid steel, if you remember in 2021, the home market of the steel market, and obviously you saw the gym equipment going skyrocket in price, was because of the solid steel shot up 3 times the cost because they didn't have, old science, supply and demand, right? And pandemic affected that a lot in regards to, hey, we don't have as much supply in 2020, but all of a sudden we have more demand now, but our supply wasn't caught up in time. So now it raised the pricing, and eventually it evened it back out. But obviously cast iron raw material is more inexpensive to do. So you're going to get less surcharges when the supply is lower long term. So it led me to do that faster. I wanted to do it all the time, but I was like, I need to get this going. But when I first started the company, my goal was not to have a company this long. Let's be honest. I know it sounds weird. So I have another company too that I do industrial supplies. So I know the manufacturing process. I've been in this for years. But choosing a US-based facility just made sense to help people out because I knew the manufacturers already. So I was like, hey guys, I got something here. Let's help the local community out and get it going. And then people really wanted it. And then now, okay, long story short, here we are. I'm enjoying myself. It doesn't mean I'm not stressed out, but I'm having fun meeting individuals like yourself and hanging out with you guys because that's what it's really all about. But the US-based aspect came from, it's just, philosophy is good to have a U.S. manufacturer. I've worked with manufacturers in the U.S. all my life, and I've nothing wrong with going anywhere else. It's just, for me, I really wanted to work with the supply chain being local to me for quality control. It's going to be more expensive, but I can walk up, I can drive there anytime, be like, okay, what are we doing, guys? Show me what's going on. How can we improve on this? I don't have to go and wait weeks to get an answer. I just go there and fix processes that I know of and work with that team on a local level. So it helps for me, it helps the customers get the quality they deserve because I'm always in there looking at stuff, trying to adjust it and make sure that if something does happen, we can respond fast.
Yeah, for sure. What certifications or standards do you use for the cast iron plate? So what I'm asking there, during the machining process, is there a scale involved, or is it just these things tend to be right around 45 pounds, or like what's your accuracy for these?
Yeah, so we promise 1% accuracy, and there's a scale involved. There's calipers. There's what do you want to call it? just rulers. I'll call them rulers, measurement devices. I can't remember what they're like. It could be lasers. I don't know what they're using in there, but we want to keep the diameter certain. We have a variance. We have a tolerance the diameter has to be in, of course, because it's hard to keep everything exactly the same, just because you do have to keep a little tiny variance just to keep the weight within that 1%. Yeah, we use a scale. We pop it on there. We actually have the mold a little bit bigger so we can machine it down to the 45 as close as we can. I don't know if you
Gotcha.
weighed your place and you've seen what they are, but it comes in pretty dang close most every time. Doesn't mean every time
Yeah,
it does,
mine.
but
Yeah, I'm looking down at my scale. Mine were all like spot on.
all right, good.
Yeah, it's been a few days, but it's so unremarkable that it was unremarkable because they all seemed to weigh what they were supposed to weigh,
Yeah. We don't want to do the
and that's a
whole,
certified scale.
yeah. And the certifications, and you ask that for ours. I mean, it's just the measurements and the quality control. It's really a manual process, right? It's not automated. It's a manual. You got to take every single plate. I mean, you probably take 5 or 10 during that sample run and keep, okay, weigh this plate, make sure we're still on track. Okay, make another 10, weigh this plate, make we're still on track, and then just keep going.
Gotcha.
Doesn't mean that there's no issues that happen during the foundry process that you send back a lot of scrap because they're way out of whack. Like you
Do
can't
do
machine.
you actually end up sending a bunch of stuff back?
Yeah, they take the scrap and melt it back down and put it back into the other products. Not just
Gotcha.
ours, but
Okay.
anybody other they're doing.
Does the
So
foundry owe you a certain percentage? Like, is it like 80% of the stuff has to be close enough, or like, is there some sort of recourse you have, or is it just you get what you get and you don't throw a fit?
yeah, I mean the recourse is sending it back and scrapping them and saying, hey, we're not paying for that, right? This is way out of spec,
Gotcha.
but doesn't mean that there's really. We hope every run that happens, there's scrap. Just it's unavoidable. So let's say 90% would be awesome. If we're running 300 plates and we get, 25 set back, I'm okay with that. That's just the way it is. Plus, they also sometimes make more or less depending on how that raw material is left in there. Let's call it a bucket where they're putting it into the molten and everything. So it's never this. If I order 300, it's never 300. It's always give or take some, and then out of those, they're scrap. So yeah, we'd like it to be very consistent all the time, but that's just not how it's not possible. So we try to negotiate and we try to tell them, yeah, we can't accept anything below this, but hey, crap happens. It's almost hard to put a number on what they need to have every single time. So we just need to hope for the best and choose from what we have the best. And we're not, I mean, everybody does it. It's not just like, hey, our foundry is the only person that does it. No, they all do it. It's just part of the manufacturing. There
Got
is
it.
waste.
I mean, waste will definitely happen, but that's what gets you your guys' QC. So that's another part about Weighted Out that seems A plus as far as I'm concerned. Everything I've ever had or seen has always been high quality. But to keep that higher quality, like we're talking about U.S. manufacturing, high quality plates. It reminds me of like Ben Stiller during Happy Gilmore when he's like got his grandma captive and he's like, this is high quality handmade stuff. Like, how do you strike a balance between making something accessible, affordable, and keeping it incredibly high quality? Like, how do you decide where to put that line?
That's a hard part because no matter how many plates I buy, price isn't really different. I mean, it's so I can, if I said here's $3 million, they'd probably give me a much better price, but it's not going to be that much of a difference, to be honest. You might save 5%. That's the crazy part. So how do I put a number on what it is? I mean, you got to look at your marketing costs, your overhead, your inventory costs, all these different things. And what is it going to be acceptable to keep it there? I'd love to sell them a lot lower, of course, right? But at the same time, you just can't. I wouldn't be in business. So it's been kind of a playing around, tweaking to see where in the market that I'm at and whose kind of buyer do I have? What kind of buyer do I have? Because obviously my goal is mid-tier, high-tier market. Fortunately, the way I make the plates, I can't be on a low-tier market because, the income levels don't allow that to happen. Because not many people can afford $219 for a pair of 45 plates in that market. So it's me picking my market too, to make sure it's palatable for my consumers that buy it. Obviously, I'm not going to say, "Hey, Kurt, here's a cast iron plate, and $500 is your price." You're never going to buy it. I mean, now if you're a 1%er, you may like, "Yeah, it's cool. I'll take it, whatever. I don't care."
Yeah, but you don't even see the price tag if you're a 1%er. You just say, I
Yeah.
want the thing. So
Now maybe they want the solid steel because you custom engrave and all that stuff. They might want that price point. But yeah, with the cast iron, it's hard because you got all the competition too from overseas and, less quality product and people saying weight's weight. And that's, obviously untrue because weight's not weight because it's obvious there's variances in there. So it really comes down to marketing. Everything does. It just, we have a certain audience we have to have because our quality's there. It's not because we semi chose that audience because the way we make the plates. So it has to go to them. But the individuals who are buying standard plates and Amazon dollar per pound plates, hey, no problem with that. Enjoy. I'll call maybe weekend warriors per se, but individuals like you who are lifting every morning and have a goal in mind, it's more than just a hobby. It's a passion. So therefore you're going to spend more on your wants than your needs. And these, in my opinion, you work towards these plates. You don't need them. Yeah. So
yeah, I'd agree with that.
yeah, and it's being made in the U.S. Labor's cost is higher, so it's just going to be a higher cost product. So it's
I
hard
was
to
trying
tell.
to look at it. I was trying to look at it too. So like I grew up, my father, American manufacturing. I say iron worker, but he built custom spiral staircases. He still does it. It's become more of a family business now where he used to work for other people. But I have always had a soft spot for American manufacturing. And it's because I grew up watching it. Like I grew up installing not million, but like $100,000 staircases in multi-million-dollar homes. And let's just say that my dad, who's probably one of the hardest working men I've ever met in my life, does not have his own product in his house because that's just how much it costs, or that's how busy he is, that he's never had the opportunity to actually put it in his own place. So for me, I have a really soft spot for it because I know how hard welders work. I don't know anybody that runs a foundry, but like I have a pretty base understanding of paint booth people. Like I hang out with these people when I'm on vacation over at my parents' place, and I love them. Like they're the best, some of the best people out there. But for your customers, when you're trying to like guide customers towards certain things, so like you essentially have steel, cast iron, and bumper. How do you steer people towards what they need?
You can tell me that, I'd be a better marketer. Great. Actually, we're going through that process right now. It's been 3 years of, I think, sending the wrong message. And I think the product should be marketed a little bit differently. And I'm working on that with some people to get this changing of the market. And I'm saying not changing the market, but changing the message to the market. I think
What
a
is
lot
your
of
message now?
well,
Sorry to interrupt you there, but
oh, it's okay. Yeah. I think the message has always been, space saving, high quality, got handles for easy transition around the gym, do exercises. And we work with a lot of obviously strongman, but we should be branching out to all these other markets. Strongman is just one big one. I mean, I have a passion for strongman world. I have a passion for home gym world. I have a passion for weight plates. Okay. So I kind of allowed my passion thinking that I was going to make the money. Let's put it back to the staircase thing. Like you make staircases and really good product for other people, but you can't make enough money to make it for yourself. But you do the job. That's because you want to do, and you make sure customers are happy. But eventually, you got to eat too. And you got to make sure you're doing the right thing. In a business aspect of things, if you don't have the business running correctly, you're going to lose the business and you won't be able to take care of customers. So the marketing will change a little bit more to stop the message of put more in your barbell, more space, more in the barbell, more space, get more weight, more space. I should have been watching the marketing for a long time. Let's put it that way. And I kind of just gave my trust in this, a lot of different marketers saying, hey, you know what you're doing. Let's do this. But it's my turn. So it's going to change a little bit in the next 3 months. And we're going to focus more on, space saving, of course, all that same stuff. But as I talked about before, the plate loaded machines, we didn't really show off too often. And we need to, that's a huge market for our plates. I mean, why wouldn't you show that off for that kind of application? And why wouldn't you show off solid steel, how good looking it is, and the custom engraving options and the things that nobody really knows about? Why wouldn't you show off our industrial paint that we can take plates in your own home gym and paint over them for your own theme for like $10 a plate? Just get them to us. Why are we not showing off the bumper plates more often? You don't, and I'm sure you see my ads all the time, unfortunately. Sorry about that, but you probably see the same ads all the time. And the bumper plates aren't always in there, or they're not correctly shown, and that's going to change. Steve Tripp is obviously helping us out a lot. If you see him in some of these videos, he's been awesome, and I appreciate him very much. But we're going to send more videographers over there to show what we need to show, and he's going to be like, "Yeah, let me, whatever you want to do, I'll do it. Tell me what to do. I'm in." So there's going to be some changes in marketing. That's what we're going to say.
I think that'll be good. I think the space savings is undersold. I commonly will state in videos where people are planning gyms that your two most important forms of currency in a home gym specifically are space and literal money. And space is one of those things that is often not prioritized until it's a little bit too late. And so I think that the space saving option there, and then also, again, on the plate loaded machine seems to be a really good way to go. Now it's just a matter of getting in front of people's face and educating the customer.
Yeah. And with the space saving, definitely that's never going anywhere because that's a huge asset of these things. But we need to I'm going to say this wrong. We need to work with other companies. I'm going to say the word. I'm just so tired right now. Collaborate with other people. Like, I mean, I know like PRXs of the world, they are founded on space saving, right? For you fold that thing up, there's your gym in the garage and it comes back out, there's your thing. But they're missing out the weight plates. A lot of these companies are missing out on that part. Well, they private label their own weight plates and that makes sense. Why would they come into my plates and focus on spacing when they can do their own plates, but they don't have the same type of plate, of course. But there's got to be some synergy. Speaking of synergy, like they're tall space saving things too. They can put our plates on there as well. And maybe I'm not doing a good enough job to tell people like I'm willing to work with anybody. Just talk to me, please. But also at the same time, there's been a lot of companies you do start talking to, then you get ghosted out of nowhere that can benefit from the space saving for their customers. So yeah, if you had a silver bullet for that, it'd be so much easier for this world. Right?
I'll get working on the silver bullet for that. I do need a job, so we'll figure it out.
Come on in. Take some equity. No.
Let's do it. Once a cast iron is established, which essentially it is established, do you see any opportunities in the near term as far as expansion or refining? I know that you talked a lot about different coatings, so I imagine that colors. You talked a little bit about like inserts for like different shapes, limited editions with the different sort of wordings, but is there anything that's like at your 5 meter target? So not your 3 meter, not your close one, but like your 5 meter target. That's like, hey, like this is something that we could do once we're up and going.
Yeah, actually, let me look at something real fast because I have another guy that helps me out and we just put together a list for 2025, like the necessary things that we have to work on like right now. And I don't know if I can say everything, but let me look at this. Yeah, I can say this. This is going to be a good one. If it may not have to do with cast iron, it has to do with rebranding Weighted Out. Everybody loves the little guy. Okay. Don't get me wrong. He's cool. He's a good, but does it look like a premium priced product logo? No, not in my opinion. I think it's cool to have, but it shouldn't be their logo for everything. You can have multiple logos. So we're working on some other logos per se and some rebranding options that will show the customer like, okay, this is not cheap to buy, not inexpensive. We know this. We can't avoid that, but the brand will fit the pricing and work out together. So that's a high level. Now, does that have to do with cast iron? No, but it has to do with the whole company itself. Another thing is, I told you before, the private label cast iron plates. You're first to kind of know about that. I don't know how fast that's going to be or not, but when I go to the other screen, does it cut me off your picture or no? Like the video?
No. I still see it. It's a little choppy, but I can still hear you.
I know. Okay, yeah. Sometimes when I go,
and then I hear an echo of myself occasionally.
Oh, so that's the I guess the high level plan, but we also want to and focus on our customization options when it comes to custom engraving. That's that we've always done it, but again, nobody knows. Maybe you knew, but there's not many people that go to our website and be like, hey, for an extra 10%, I can get my name or whatever I want on this plate. It's awesome to have nobody else going to have this plate in the world except for me, and it's mine, without having to buy 7,000 plates or something like that. We can buy just a pair of plates with no extra cost, really. So that's a huge advantage. I wish I could do in the cast iron, but unfortunately, the cast iron is too porous and the laser doesn't really bounce correctly off that type of plate.
So you probably get like a sort of out of focus product there, like somewhere in the valleys, it's a little bit out of focus. It doesn't etch right.
Yeah, it'll work. I mean, it just won't look really good, put it that way. So that's, I guess what I could say, at least right now, would be the major things. And then we're going to focus on more apparel too. Like we have all these different designs we want to do, different sayings we want to do. And we've noticed that, I mean, our average order sale is $346. That's not an easy pill to swallow for a lot of people, right? It's an investment. There's a lot of, yeah, keep bringing it back. It's waiting it out for the right time to buy your stuff. So we need to find other products that are more cost effective for customers that are, still good and high quality, but they're like, hey, I want this, $60, not so bad. I'm going to buy this today, but I can't buy $346 when just on a whim all the time. I got to figure out when I have the right assets for that. So we're working on some other products. You may have seen the dumbbell handles, which lead us back to, it's a stupid design, really, to be honest. It's a really dumb thing. It's so simple. It's smart. It's not stupid. It's just so simple. And I feel like people have done it before, but when we get our 1-inch standard plates, those are going to be so nice to get on there.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks like they're like, the handles reminded me of when my brothers work for my dad. So they actually know how to weld. I just know how to make pieces of metal stick together. They will do things out of drops that are just outstanding. I mean, the amount of work and the amount of extra production that you can get, you're like wringing the rag. But that's what the handles like reminded me of when I first saw them. I was like, oh, that's an excellent use for what could very well be drops.
Yeah, just like scrap metal, that kind of thing. Same concept. Yeah. It's not it's solid steel. A lot of dumbbell handles could be aluminum, or a loadable dumbbell. And you're looking at these loadable dumbbell handles that have the same exact result, and they're costing maybe $150, $200, depending on how, and they can't hold more than 100 pounds or 120 pounds. So these things, I mean, I could put 3,000 pounds on there if you really wanted to. Not that you will, because you can't do anything with it, but, and same with that handle. Attitude. Yeah, now with that attitude, I'm not going to, I'll never lift 3,000 pounds, I guarantee it. With a forklift, I do though. So it's easy. But then with the other, incorporating those cast iron plates on products like that, I hate to say it, I'm not going to make money off the handles by any means, but I need to upsell something with those handles, and those cast iron plates are going to be a good option for that. And I would love to see, I want the price to be lower in the handles, and I want to just make it almost even money just to get people that can make their own dumbbells. And maybe they want a set of dumbbells without buying a fixed set. They want, hey, I want, like you said earlier, I want 3-4 common sizes. The dumbbell handles are simple and easy to buy, but I always want a 55 pound, a 65 pound, a 75 pound dumbbell, but I don't want to keep changing them up. So might as well just buy the plates and dumbbell handle and be done.
For me, I'd see it as like, I'm going to slowly build out my 5 to 150 pound set, using all of those. I think it would look great, like with those 10s. And because they're still so thin, like you're not talking about all that heavy to get up to a 100 pound plate. I'm sorry, 100 pound dumbbell.
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing is
it's 5 per side.
It's not be as cost, right? How much do you want to spend, and it would be cheaper to get an inexpensive fixed weight dumbbell?
For sure, it for sure would. But again, I think that people are looking at things that for their space, custom colors are a great example that people go goo goo gaga for custom color options. If right now my gym is red and black. So to go red and black with things could make sense, but the fact that you guys offer, I'm just looking at it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I see 9 colors.
Unfortunately. Yeah, I think pink's supposed to be down there because I realized, well, last time we did it, we made pink and we bought enough that it was custom color. But when we needed to pay one customer's order, we're like, we don't have any more. Found out that it's actually a minimum order of that pink color to do. And
Is it?
I had enough before, but now it's like, oh, we can't just buy just the stock products we usually do. So unfortunately, pink is great. I love it. But, I know people want pink and maybe we get more of it, but we've had 3 orders in the past year for pink. So it's another one of those 35-pound plates.
Yeah, yep.
Why do I have it? So,
Well, hey, that's pretty much all that I had. So, I mean, was there anything else with Waited Out that you wanted to plug while we're on here? Otherwise, I was going to try to wrap it up.
yeah, no, you brought up some other ideas in my head, of course, and I know we're kind of working on some of those too, but one of those cool ideas about the color schemes is theoretically, you buy a green plate from us, let's say, you multiple plates, and you want it colored pink or black, or you change your mind, my theme of my gym's going to change to red, send them back. Let's paint them again. Like, I just go right over it. I think there's never been a plate in the history of mankind, in my opinion, that has a retrofit option to it. So.
Yeah, I can't think of one. Yeah.
No. And then those handles, you can easy to send back 10-pound plates and change it up for your theme. But yeah, I don't know. It's again, I'll get on a tangent all day. It's to get me ideas. That'd be a scary part. And then we'll be stuck here for 10 hours, but I know you're going to wrap it up.
Yeah. I just wanted to say thank you again for being on the show. Waited Out is, I would be remiss not to plug it here, but Waited Out is like the weight sponsor for the Strongman Throwdown at Home Gym Con, which super appreciative for that. That saves a lot of effort, specifically with me packing up all of my personal weights and then watching strongman competitors warm up. As much as I don't treat my weights all that nicely, there's a lot stronger people out there than me that especially don't treat weights nicely. So it's really cool for you to step up and be able to have that. And we've talked a little bit about it. We haven't really finalized details, but probably going to be selling those plates at the event. So if you're looking to get Waited Out plates, you should definitely be at Home Gym Con. You know what's funny? I actually meant to I have a pair of your washers that you laser etched from last year. And I actually have them magnetized on like a little strongman axle that I made out of a little piece of metal stock. But go to Home Gym Con, use code KL10 and you'll get 10% off your ticket. Go in, watch the strongman competition, meet Brian, see the Waited Out plates, and of course, bring a truck so that when you buy your cast iron Waited Outs, you have a way to get them home. But
we can also,
Brian, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, just ask about the selling of the cast iron plates. We can also, if you pre-order or you order them there and you can't get it home, we'll ship them to you with a nominal shipping fee. I don't want to.
There we go.
Want them? We'll get them to you. Trust me.
Yep. If you got to fly into Louisville, then perfectly fine. We'll get them. We will get them to you. So, yeah, that's been it. So, Brian, I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, no, Kurt, I appreciate it, man. It's awesome. It's always nice talking to you. I know there's so much more to go over. Time is of the essence as always. Yeah, if you first time have heard us Waited Out, follow us on Instagram. I think it's wait it_out. Our website's www.waitedout.com or .us, whichever you choose. Wait like a weight plate, and reach out anytime. I'm the customer service guy too, so if you reach out, I'm answering you.
There you go. Of course, go to the Kurt Locker, which you are already at, but the Kurt Locker on Instagram, and I will be plugging all of those links down below. That's been it for this episode, though. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.